everyone! Welcome to another episode of English class. I am Shiny Marie Sigasig, and for today's video, I will be talking about bilingual education, but I will be focusing more on the problem areas and future work. Without further ado, let's begin.
A primary challenge to providing bilingual programs is the shortage of qualified bilingual teachers. It is often difficult to find individuals who are native proficient speakers of the language spoken by language minority students and who are also sufficiently proficient in the national language to the level needed to complete teacher training programs and pass required teacher certification examinations. University-based bilingual teacher training programs in the United States typically only serve Spanish speakers. Many of these programs also find they need to provide assistance to teacher candidates to either improve their English or to improve their Spanish. In many cases, students need to help to develop both, especially for students who attended subtractive K-12 programs that failed to help students develop high levels of proficiency in standard English. These challenges are not impossible to overcome, but require commitment to creative strategies and specialized training programs. Once qualified teacher candidates are identified, an additional challenge is the lack of clear criteria and standards for the training of bilingual teachers. United States, for example, each state creates its own rules and regulations for teacher training and certification. Not all states have articulated standards for bilingual teachers. For those that do have standards, they vary greatly in terms of content, amount of required hours of training, and the level of proficiency required in the non-English language. As noted earlier, despite research showing the effectiveness of bilingual education, decisions about educational language policy are usually driven by politics and are rooted in efforts of the dominant group to protect their power. In describing the development of bilingual education, I have here three misconceptions and fears that political leaders often have about bilingual education. The first misconception about bilingual education is that it will lead to demands for autonomy by ethnic minority groups. This is the misconception of bilingual education that politicians fear most, because when these minor ethnic groups ask for freedom to govern their own, let's say, tribe in a certain place or even just an area and fight for autonomy, these politicians will lose their power and control over whatever that is on that certain place, may it be the resources or anything. The second misconception or fear in bilingual education is because it might lead to political instability. Political instability is likely to shorten policymakers' horizons, leading to suboptimal short-term macroeconomic policies. It may also lead to a more frequent switch of policies, creating a volatility and thus negatively affecting macroeconomic performance. And lastly, the national language is more important than mother tongues because a national language is a language with a political, cultural, and social unit which is connected with it. Let us now proceed to the second weak form of bilingual education, which is the orthography. But first, let us define what is orthography. An orthography is a set of conventions for writing a language. It includes norms of spelling, hyphenation, capitalization, word breaks, emphasis, and punctuation. Middleburg notes that these weak programs may at least be viewed as what Benson 2003 has called foot in the door strategies that can pave the way towards true or stronger bilingual education programs. There is a great inconsistency in how program models for English language learners students are labeled. Programs that are labeled as bilingual education may in fact be English medium programs with minimal primary language support, and programs labeled as ESL or sheltered English immersion may in fact provide some L1 content area instruction. There is a need to establish national and international standards for the training and certification of bilingual teachers. A model may be found in the standards for training ESL teachers established by teachers of English to speakers of other languages. Unfortunately, the national leadership of the bilingual education field in the United States has become increasingly divided over the past decade, greatly weakening the standing and influence of national bilingual education professional associations. A reunification of the field is needed so this important work can be undertaken. Greater emphasis on and support for strong forms of bilingual education is greatly needed. Ironically, while bilingual education research and bilingual program models developed in North America have been extremely influential around the world, the current trends in the United States to ignore its own research and push for weak forms of bilingual education or restrict them altogether are also receiving wide international attention. In conclusion, I want to give emphasis on the argument made by Ofelia Garcia in 2009, which clearly says that as work in this field continues to move forward, we must recognize that bilingual education is the only way to educate children in the 21st century.
And that wraps up everything. I hope you've learned something and see you in my next video. Bye!